Hi, welcome to the first fireside chat of 2024. We're in the season of Lent, and this Lent we are reading Max Lucado's You Were Made for This Moment, a book where Max is going to walk us through the biblical book of Esther. So today we're in Max chapter 2. We did Max chapter 1 on Sunday, and guess what? We're going to do Max chapter 3 on this coming Sunday. But if you're following along in the Bible, we're in Esther chapter 1. In this chapter, Esther and Mordecai are our two key protagonists, our heroes, and they are eager to make it in Persia. They want it desperately. In fact, they're willing to hide their entire identity to make it. Now, we're going to spend more time about that this coming Sunday, but today I want to talk about their willful blindness in their desperation to fit in. They don't even stop to consider if it's worth it to fit in, because they want to make it in Persian culture. They have moved to the very capital of Persia, to Susa, and they are trying desperately. Mordecai's got a good job. Esther is a beautiful young woman. But what they don't see is that the very culture of Persia is rotten to the core. It's what we would call a bullying culture. The powerful are able to impose their will impetuously on anybody that's weaker than them. The story begins with Xerxes throwing this epic rager of a party. The Bible describes it as lasting 6 months long, and food and wine. In fact, one of the ways you can remember Esther is the Epicurean book of the Bible. If you go through a concordance search of things like food, wine, banquets, eating, feasting, Esther is going to be your leading book. In fact, the book kind of moves from feast to banquet to, that's what Esther does. It's how the author put it together. Well, anyhow, Xerxes is throwing this massive rager, and at the end of it, he decides it's going to be appropriate to show off his wife, Vashti, the queen. Only she's not interested. Somehow it seems like she wants to maybe preserve a little dignity. I'm sorry, folks. One of my cats is hiding and playing right behind Judy, and she's trying desperately to shush him from playing loudly. So if you hear a little crunching, it's just a cat playing in the background. So anyhow, Vashti is reluctant to go and display herself for Xerxes' drunk friends. She wants to preserve a little dignity. And as a result, she stands up to his bullying. And it's perceived not only as a slight to him, but everybody in the culture says, oh, hold it. She's a threat to our whole system. Because what if wives don't tolerate being bullied by their husbands? What will become of us? So Vashti is deposed as queen. And it's into that power gap that that Mordecai and Esther work. And they want to put Esther into Vashti's spot, willfully blinding themselves to the corruption of the system and the abuse of power that's there. And they don't really realize it until chapter 3, where a new bully named Haman gets his feelings hurt and decides to act on that. Our Savior Jesus gets the fact that we sometimes get misguided. He understands that our culture sometimes promotes ends that are, well, vacuous at best and sometimes bad, downright evil, and are far less than what he wants for us. Jesus told a story in Matthew 7, right near the end of the Sermon on the Mount, about two paths. And it goes like this: enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction. But small is the gate, and narrow is the road that leads to life. It's entirely possible for human beings to not see the destruction that's the end of the broad road. In fact, there's a proverb about there is a way that seems right unto a man, but it doesn't work out. So many times we join in walking down that broad road. We get misguided, just like Esther and Mordecai. Now, there's good news for us. Because Jesus, our Savior, not only loves us, but died to save us. He's not interested in watching our destruction. Our Savior is not interested in being able to do a divine, I told you so, sort of a, you made your bed, now lie in it. In fact, he actually encourages mid-course corrections. And he does this by offering us forgiveness. So when we look and say, oh man, I've been walking the wrong path, he willingly says, let me wipe away the mistakes of your past, and let me give you my empowering spirit to help you in the future. Let me help you make that mid-course correction. And he gives us his word to guide us to more noble goals and a better end, a road that leads to life. Esther and Mordecai show us the dangers of willful blindness, of walking blindly down the broad path that leads to destruction. They join in actively. And when they realize their mistake, well, God comes to their rescue too. We'll get there later. But in the meantime, I want to focus on how Jesus wants to help us. If you find yourself walking a path that doesn't work, you don't have to stick with it. Jesus encourages a mid-course correction. He wants to empower and help us to step off that broad road that leads to destruction and enter the narrow path that leads to life. Hey, this coming Sunday, we're going to be in Acts chapter 3, Esther chapter 2. You're invited to join us in person at Christ Our Savior, traditional at 8:30, contemporary at 10:30, or you can join us online. We'd love to have you any way you want to come. Blessings on your day.